alaikum and welcome back, sisters. You're watching Women's AM with myself, Sarah, and joining us on the panel today we have Sister Nusrat, Sister Nazia and our guest, Zara Faris. It's time for our final segment of the show where we'll be discussing hareems and the misconceptions surrounding them. Let's have a look at this clip to find out more.
The Muslim woman, an idea very much contested by many academics, thinkers and personalities. The idea always espoused that a woman is burqa-clad, chained to the sink, to be speaking and not to be heard.
In this first feature, we discuss the myths about the hareem, a word that has come to represent century-long links to scantily clad women enjoying the wealth of the Islamic world, grooming and being prepared for the Sultan to enjoy.
The hareem, a term that conjures up much imagery of Ottoman women in royal attire, being tended to by servants and lounging around. This is something we commonly hear about the Uthmani Caliphate.
The hareem is undoubtedly the most prevalent symbol in Western myths constructed around the theme of Muslim sensuality. Hareems during that time of the Ottoman state housed wives and female relatives of the Sultan, as well as servants for the women.
In the 1870s, in a bid to strengthen French colonial rule over parts of the Muslim world, made a recommendation that Arab women marry French men. A supporter of this recommendation has stated by through the woman you can gain a hold on the soul of a people.
Western colonialists therefore sought to get a hold of the soul of the Muslim woman by shaping her taste accordingly to their values, convincing her to view the Islamic history through their eyes and moulding her hopes and aspirations through their dreams. The words victim and veiled became synonymous, and the covered Muslim woman came to represent the visible symbol of Islam's oppression of women.
Fictitious books such as 1001 Arabian Nights have contributed very much so to reinforcing a narrative of Muslim women as being women who are no more than chattel, objectified only for the pleasure of men. Nowhere do we find this more reinforced than in Western literature and through our history books as we see them today regarding the aspect of hareems.
However, paintings and written work about the hareem were works of Western male writers and artists who were never allowed to have any close interaction with Ottoman women, nor enter the hareem due to the strict segregation of the genders that was implemented under the state. It was therefore virtually impossible for male foreigners to give a first-hand account of women's lives in an Ottoman hareem or household.
The writings of female travellers have very much contradicted the notion that women under the Uthmani Caliphate were under servitude and objectified only to be used as chattel. If anything, they saw liberation, freedom and equality under the Uthmani Caliphate, something very much painted differently by male Orientalist narrative.
M.D.M. Diosson, an Armenian woman who worked for many years in the Swedish embassy in Turkey during the 18th century, stated regarding the Uthmani Caliphate, "Anyone who behaves badly towards a woman, regardless of his position or religion, cannot escape punishment, because religion generally commands women to be respected. For this reason, both the police and the judges deal very severely with anyone who ill-treats women."
We see through the historical accounts of women who lived and worked under the Uthmani Caliphate that the strict adherence to segregation was something very much enforced in practice, contrary to Orientalist narratives. We find that even the Caliph, when he was aware of women in his home, as seen by their shoes being left outside, that he knew not to enter. This shows the high regard for the woman and the respect of the adherence to strict segregation practices.
Contrary to the depiction of European writers, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Assuredly, women are the twin halves of men."
We see that Islam teaches that the woman is not to be used for gratification purposes. We see that she is not to be looked at as a piece of chattel. She is held in high regard and she is called Muhsana, which is the fortress against Shaitan who holds her husband upright. We've also seen throughout Islamic history the pioneering of women scholars and women in education. Scholars such as Ibn Taymiyyah have cited and held in high regard the importance of women as being their teachers. Women should not be looked at as inferior to men, but rather women who build up the next generation.
And the believers, men and women, are guardians of one another. They enjoin in the right and forbid the wrong, thereby holding women and men equally responsible for protecting society from corruption.
And as for the accusation that the Muslim woman played no participation in society, then how would you explain the countless Muslim women who participated in law, economics, education, as well as general life? doing this while maintaining their dignity under the Islamic dress code and abiding by the conditions under the Sharia. Islam liberated the woman, and she need not seek it elsewhere.
Sisters, what did you make of that video then? I know I learned a lot from that video.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, the word hareem, it really just means a sacred or protected space. Like we refer to Mecca or the haram, just means a protected or sacred space where they would keep their families. It just meant this was a space which, you know, other people couldn't violate. And it's interesting, many people say, oh, the Ottomans or the Turks ruled the people, and they add on to that and saying their wives ruled them. So just because you're inside a sacred space, if you were indeed, it doesn't mean you are cut off from society. And just very finally, one of a non-Muslim female travellers who travelled in that region, she once observed, because they were allowed to go into these areas, she said, as many women, if not more than men, are to be seen in the streets going about their own business. And she says, I never saw a country where women may enjoy so much liberty, free from all reproach, as in Turkey. And she said that they're an example to all other nations back in the day. And she says, I think them in their manner of living capable of being the happiest creatures breathing. So this is a whole other side.
Oh wow, that's really.
I've only got one word for the Orientalist movement.
It's
propaganda. And honestly, I would say I'd love to see a footage of 19th century European women and see what rights she had, the way that it's been depicted here, because they were not able to inherit, they were not able to control their wealth. They had so many rights stripped away from them that actually when you really did compare the rights of the Ottoman women and the Muslim women, you would see that actually who were the oppressed women, and you would find it was the European women. So for me, the whole movement was just there, much the same as we see today, Muslim women being attacked and their whole position within Islam being attacked. And there's no justification, there's no evidence to support all of these things that they were saying. And for me, I do find it so frustrating, because this was a period when you actually look at the way the women were living in the Muslim societies. Actually, behind doors in European world, they were looking and they were aware that they had better lives.
For your comments, Nazia and Zara. A great discussion there. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of another show, but of course we are back again tomorrow at 11 AM to discuss racism in the Ummah, so please do tune in for that. Jazakallah khair to all our sisters on the panel, Sister Nusrat, Nazia and particular Zara, our special guest this morning. And of course to you at home for watching. Please keep us and the Ummah in your du'as. See you tomorrow inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.